So welcome to another edition of Open for Business. I'm your host, Marjorie Young. Today's show is about how StoneWorks Inc., located in Hilton Head Island, South Carolina, has pivoted during this COVID-19 crisis. StoneWorks fabricates and installs natural and man-made stone primarily for the residential market, both in construction and remodel. The CEO, Andy Johnson, is our guest today. Also joining us is Karen Casey and Mike Wetters, business mentors from a group called SCORE. SCORE.org is a national organization that offers small business owners free mentoring. They have over 10,000 certified business mentors and over 300 chapters around the country. And Karen and Mike are mentors from the South Carolina Lowcountry SCORE chapter. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Thank you, Marjorie.
Thank you. Pleased to be here.
So Andy, when you first learned about this global threat, what went through your head and what did you need to happen with your business?
Well, I will admit that when the onset hit us, I did take a day or two, and I was kind of like a punch in the gut, and was looking at it through kind of a negative lens instead of trying to look for the opportunities. So I did allow it for a day or two to kind of set me back for just a bit.
Okay. So what was actually the first action item that you did after you caught your breath?
Well, to me, a key was communication with our employees.
Okay.
So we quickly started communicating with our employees. And then I personally knew that I needed to be more visible and more accessible. So in the early days of COVID, we had at least a couple, if not 3 meetings a week in small groups, so that we touched all of our employees to just be open and transparent and candid. Hey guys, this is what's going on. This is what we see happening with our business. What questions do you have? And really tried to be transparent with them and trying to learn what's on their mind and trying to alleviate and calm any of the fears that they may have.
So Andy, was at that point, were you all still meeting at your office physically, or were you online?
Yes, the only alterations we have made into our operation is that we closed our showroom to the public. Our warehouse, our fabrication, we have maintained our normal operating hours. We obviously put in a lot of the safety protocols. I initially went and found and read all of the CDC guidelines and determined that we were a low risk operation for continuing, and put all those precautions in place. We did close our showroom to the public, but made it available by appointment only.
Did you do any type of virtual tours for potential customers, or? That's a great question, and I'm excited that you asked, because we obviously we had the technology for our sales staff to continue to work from home and to work remotely. But what we have done since then is part of what I like to call our DNA is looking for a better way. And since COVID, we found a better way for our clients to shop and shop safely. We added functionality to our website. So clients can go to our website and they can browse our slab and remnant inventory. And then there's also a room visualizer. So you can sit in the safety and confines of your home. Our salesperson is remote. You can shop for stone and just complete that process from A to Z. So is it live?
Well, it's live. It's not virtual. Okay. It's live inventory. So if we have a client comes in, we sell 2 slabs, those are immediately removed from the inventory. So we're not going to make a mistake and sell a piece of stone twice. Absolutely.
So at what point did you reach out to SCORE? And we've got Karen and Mike on here, that they're business mentors. Did you already have a connection with SCORE, or did you reach out during COVID?
Well, a couple things. StoneWorks as an organization has had a relationship with SCORE for at least 10 years, quite possibly as many as 20. I'm not sure about the exact date, but I started working with Karen about a year ago on another project. We are subject of an eminent domain case, and Karen has a wealth of experience and knowledge in eminent domain and has been giving valuable advice. And so early on, when I first started hearing about the first pieces of legislation passing in Washington, I'm reaching out to Karen. Okay, tell me about this CARES Act. Tell me about PPP. Tell me about EIDL. And so she's been invaluable in that.
So Andy, what do you want small business owners to know about SCORE?
It's very simple, but they can really help your business. They have a network of mentors where the breadth of experience and accomplishments is unbelievable. And they can pull in a resource for every need that you would have in operating a small business.
So Karen, thank you for being on here. Tell us about your background with SCORE and how you were able to help Andy and his company.
Yeah, so I came down to South Carolina about 2 years ago. We were obviously living in New Jersey, and typical of the migration of getting away from snow and taxes, you know, Boston was calling, so we came here. So we moved down here about 2 years ago. I realized that I was not one to be sitting at home playing golf. So I had actually saw an article with our chairperson, Rod Cassavant, who unfortunately couldn't make today, regarding SCORE and helping businesses. So a little over a year, I reached out and joined SCORE. My background is a CPA and CFP and 30 years in banking. And, you know, eminent domain just happened to be something I had gotten involved in with a bank that I was dealing with in New York City that I had worked for way back when. And so at that point, we reach out to people. And then so when obviously we received, if you want a SCORE mentor, you go on to score.org, request a mentor, put in your, obviously the area you're in, and obviously one of the local chapters will reach out to you. Well, sure enough, Andy and John, the owner of StoneWorks, reached out. And I said, fine, let's sit down and chat. And from there, it's gotten into a relationship in which, you know, Andy and I sometimes chat 3 times a day, or text or email. Matter of fact, he had some questions, obviously, for today's thing. And so as I'm on another Zoom meeting yesterday, I'm texting and emailing him saying, okay, this is what you have to do. And that we were going on. And we even spoke this morning regarding questions he has on the forgiveness of debt issue for PPP.
So Karen, what makes somebody want to volunteer that much time, like you and Mike? I mean, this is all done for free.
Yep, we're all volunteers. I asked myself that same question. No, but honestly, I've been very lucky. I've been very blessed. You know, I have worked for 40 some odd years, obviously, in my career. I thought it was when I retired, it's time to give back. And what better way to give back than the small businesses that are here that, you know what, they you know, sometimes it's just one person, you know, they're the chief cook and bottle washer. So whatever their issue is, you know, one of us as a SCORE mentor will go in, find out what they need, and then bring in all the other expertise. So whether it's marketing or HR or whatever, or like in Andy's case, he was looking for a project manager because of the switchover he had to do, and obviously the move. You know, we have that expertise that we could bring in and help them.
Absolutely. Thank you. So Mike, how long have you been involved with SCORE, and how have you been able to share your expertise with Andy?
So I've been involved with SCORE a little over 3 years. And one of the things that struck me from the very first time that I had any opportunity for exposure to the other 44 or so mentors was the breadth of experience, knowledge. People that are in business today, they're not all retired. Many of us are mainly retired or have other activities. But what really was so important to me was how important this is to our clients.
Oh, yeah.
And it's wonderful to hear Andy talk about the long relationship that the business has had, and his specifically in his role being responsible for running an important business here in the Lowcountry in Hilton Head, Bluffton area. And you know, when people would ask you at various stages of your career, what really drives you? Is it money, or is it the satisfaction of doing what you're doing? And I really say, certainly and I was involved in other volunteer activities as well as a business career. But it really comes down to this, and that is the feedback from our clients like Andy is better than money. Because to hear that the business was at one level, and through their hard work and their dedication and their own team's ability to achieve their goals, knowing that that constantly changes, is something that we take pride in. We could tell you many examples, but none is more important than Andy's here today about what SCORE can do for his company and his team, and then what we can do. So other volunteer mentors like Karen and the like are people that I'm proud to call friends, as well as co-mentors, and we do a lot of that.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. So Andy, what areas have you received the most mentoring from SCORE, especially during this COVID period?
Karen has really advised me on the EIDL loan application process, of which I think SBA had at least 3 iterations, but especially the first iteration when they were going to have the application 100% online. Karen walked me through step by step the requirements, and she really helped me even more so with a narrative that we put together to explain to SBA how our business was already being impacted and a couple of scenarios of how it would be impacted. She all but held my hand through those things. And then on the PPP, she's done the same thing, advising me up front, getting prepared. Andy, this is what we see, the documentation that's going to be ready even before April 3rd when applications went live. And then even after that, just educating me on what we know or what we're learning or SCORE's learning about loan forgiveness.
So Andy, did other organizations, other companies reach out to you and say, hey, we can help you with this for a fee?
I had a few reach out to say that, hey, we're here for a fee. But I'm sure other small business owners, leaders listening, they were inundated with emails from bankers, from CPAs, from independent consultants looking for a fee. But I had in my mind established such a good rapport with Karen and a confidence in her. She was the go-to, and the fact that they do this pro bono had absolutely nothing to do with it. It's where I knew I would get the best information, because SCORE has been and still communicates directly with SBA. So they're going to the source as this is evolving. And that's valuable to me.
So Mike, I believe that SCORE was started as a spinoff of SBA about 50 some years ago. Is that correct?
Yeah, we're a resource partner of SBA when they realized that they needed assistance in the ability to be on the ground across the country, those 300 plus chapters you talked about. And so, especially at a time like this, and I think there's no better underscoring of the importance of the ability of a federal agency to have on the ground contact with small business owners, which is the mission of SBA, right? So while all of that is going on at the national level, and by the way, we receive excellent support within South Carolina from William Furman, to name a name, and others. And in fact, Karen is our liaison between SBA and our chapter. And we began realizing from the beginning of this COVID crisis that in addition to the medical and the terrible effect on people, obviously, the next most important piece is the economic disaster. And so what we're able to do then is, and it's great to hear once again from Andy's perspective, that linkage that you're talking about between SCORE, the agency, and SBA, the agency, and SCORE being out there to assist owners of businesses and nonprofits as best we can. And we have 15 people now that raise their hands. So it's volunteers within volunteers that we call our rapid response Tiger team. And each person, and we're meeting every week. We had a meeting last yesterday, actually, virtually, and we're wanted to be at the tip of the spear on behalf of our clients. And so we say to people, there's a lot of information out there. There's a lot of people. Andy mentioned it. We say to them, you need it in writing from SBA or the Treasury Department. And that's what's been our driving force. So that when we make a statement to Andy and other clients, it's based on what's in writing. And we make sure we have it.
Awesome. So Andy, let me ask you this question. We're about 2 months into this pandemic. What do you see as a key surviving factor for businesses post-COVID?
Get new customers. Just get new customers. And that may sound very basic for any and every day of running your business, but it's never more important in my mind in a crisis and the economic impact we've seen from COVID. But it's not just, say go get new customers. You've got to put your money where your mouth is, reassign resources, get new resources. So we are at StoneWorks in the midst of this economic downturn. We are actually interviewing for salespeople. We were awarded the PPP, and we're very grateful for that. And that puts me in a position where I can take the calculated risk of hiring salespeople because I know we need new customers. We're making a change in our advertising. We are missing a market segment, really the retail, because our SEO game, if you will, needs to be increased or stepped up. And so I am hiring a new firm to help me with that part of our marketing and advertising, again, to get new customers. So get new customers, it's easy to say, but you've got to be willing to take the risk to make some changes in your resources and your budgetary constraints.
So Andy, what do you feel like the customers, are they starting to spend more money? Are they still not spending money because they're worried about the future? How do you overcome that?
So a couple of weeks ago, no, about a month ago, I was walking out, late one afternoon to leave the office. I passed one of our sales guys with a client actually out in our yard looking at slabs. And I overheard telling him, hey, we've all been shut up in our homes for weeks. We're looking around and we want to change our spaces. We want new countertops in our kitchen and our bathroom and our outdoor kitchens. And so we have seen a resurgence of people that want to remodel because they've spent so much time in their home. They're there spending time with family, making memories, and they're saying, I want that to look better. I want that to look different. So
that's an industry trend. Now, do you also do install? It sounds like you do.
Oh, yes, we do. We fabricate and install, and we have a great group of installers. They are, subcontractors now that work exclusively for us, but they were all employees trained by our owner and his sons.
So, Andy, when you go into people's homes, when your team goes into homes, how do you make the homeowners feel safe? What are you doing?
Weeks ago, we put in some protocol for our field guys. So we not only have installers, but we have guys that go out and do templates, and then we have service technicians. So weeks ago, we required them to begin wearing masks, gloves, take hand sanitizers with them, use them, and then wipe down all touch points when they're ready to leave the job. Okay.
So, and that makes the customer, I'm sure, feel really good. Does the customer ask you about those things before you come out?
We do get some questions about that. Not as many as we anticipated, but we do get some questions when Sandra, who does all of our scheduling, she is, the face of StoneWorks with those folks. She does get asked those questions sometimes.
So, Andy, I love that you have an accounting background. So another question I want to ask you, even though you haven't really had a downtime, if there's a small business owner watching this, what do you recommend they do during this downtime with less cash flow? And I'd love for all three of you to chime in. So Andy, what would you?
Well, an accounting background, if someone is a controller and a CFO, the first thing they're going to want to do in a market like this is they're going to want to cut advertising.
Mm-hmm.
Their next thing they're going to want to cut is either training and or payroll.
Mm-hmm.
But I view it differently. If you have the financial wherewithal, especially if you were awarded the PPP,
right,
that is a time for business owners and business leaders to invest more in their employees, invest more into coaching, and invest more into training. Because my experience in small businesses is that a lot of time we hire a new employee and they are trained by an incumbent employee. So a lot of the tasks and processes and practices that the owner wants conveyed to the new hire, they've been watered down because they may not be in writing, and they leave the training up to
absolutely
the employee. So during this time, involve them either one-on-one or like we're doing now, with my managers. We're bringing the managers and small groups of employees in and looking for better ways and talking about training. Encouraging those guys to spend one-on-one time with the employees.
That's an excellent tip on what to do during the quiet time, the downtime. Okay, how about you, Karen? What would you say?
As we talked about earlier, every business is different. The first thing I would say is reach out for a SCORE mentor, because, they could then obviously, talk to you specifically about what you're dealing with, because everyone is different. Everyone has a different financial profile. As I said, someone may be the chief cook and bottle washer, and he's lucky to have obviously a staff that he can use. But really the important thing is, okay, how do I stay alive? And how do I stay in front of my customers during this time? And people don't forget me. Restaurants went to takeout. I used the Bluffton Farmers Market as a typical idea. I live in Bluffton, so on Thursdays, the farmers market. When everything went down, they went on the website, and a core group of them said, okay, order in advance, come by your car, tell us your name, we'll put the bag in the trunk, and you just walk away. Similar to a takeout. And who would think that a farmer's market could do that? I thought that was a great idea.
Very
so
good
really, we need to think about your customers. How do you reach them? I've seen clothing stores do fashion shows online.
Another great tip. Absolutely.
So if you're looking on YouTube and everything else, or on their website, and you go and usually shop at XYZ, dress store, all of a sudden you're going to say, hey, we're having a fashion show this afternoon. Come see our latest, summer styles. Great idea. Stay in front of the customer. Find a way to get your voice in front of them any way you can. And even if it's using your cell phone and doing a quick video, simple, inexpensive ways. You don't have to hire, someone to do this for you. Have a friend video you, that you're comfortable with. And you could do a couple of takes before you publish them. Try to stay in front of your customer. Don't let them forget you, and keep your website up to date. It drives me crazy. I went to go look for something, and the website couldn't tell me, are they open? Are they not? And I was just getting frustrated. And then other ones turn around and say, yeah, we're open. And then we have a table outside on this day. And then you do this thing. Oh, that's great. Now I know how to get to you. That is so important for them.
Absolutely. Boy, more great advice. Thank you for sharing that. How about you, Mike?
Well, I was quite taken by what Andy said he did. That I think that human reaction is that lightning bolt just hit everybody, right? So if it missed me, fortunately, then what do I learn from that? And so the reaction that you had as a business owner, and a business owner with vision over the horizon, is that what got me here to this point? What has changed now in my environment? And by the way, in some cases it changed like a lightning bolt, right? And some was a little more time evident as we went forward. And how do I adapt and grow? And Andy talked about those things that are so important every other day. When you're talking about survival, when you're talking about leading, when you're talking about having a positive point of view, I'm sure that that's carried from not only the top of the organization to the remainder of your company. When they see your optimism and your positive approach, is that, hey, this isn't just words, we can get through this. It's how can we revamp, how can we redevelop, how can we refresh our business model? And so if there's a message, and by the way, we would love to carry your message directly to the top of SBA, because from the approach of what is intended with these funds, the idle funds and the PPP, you hit the nail on the head by saying that's to get you from here to there, and that having that confidence to grow and expand higher in this environment, I think that's why this money was made available, for the reasons that you stated. So those are the fundamentals. The fundamentals got you to where you were until that lightning bolt hit, and the fundamentals adapted will allow you to grow and adapt and thrive.
So what would you say, what would be your biggest tip if you had one thing to say, Andy, to a small business owner watching this?
Well, I mentioned earlier, get new customers. I guess one of the things, and this is the finance side of me coming into play, know your leading indicators. Absolutely know your leading indicators. In your business, there may be one or two leading indicators, but these are typically numbers, or observations that
let's use yours.
I'm sorry.
Can we use yours?
Oh, yes. So in our business, we're watching our backlog. What's the dollar value of orders that we have sitting out there in our system? We're watching the number of template hours. So we may have a backlog, but if our clients are not saying, come into my home and template, then we're not going to be able to bill them and collect cash in the future. So we're watching how many hours a day and a week we have on our template schedule. We're watching the number and dollar value of quotes that are going out every day. And it's not just watch those indicators, because most business owners are watching them, but during a period like this, watch them more frequently, watch them much more frequently, and don't delegate that. Put that on your shoulders. That's your task to watch those. Would
you say that's one of the biggest causes of businesses to go under? They're taking the eye off cash flow and money and indicators?
Exactly. They're looking at the here and now, or they're looking back. They're either looking back or they're looking at the here and now, and they're not anticipating, a scenario or a couple of scenarios moving forward.
Karen, what would you say is one of the biggest problems that small businesses or the biggest mistakes that they do?
It's, when you're dealing with truly small businesses, and I'm talking people with 1 to 5, employees or themselves, up until the point of when this all happened, a lot of businesses were doing well, and they were making money. They had cash flow, everything at the end. And again, this is, my CPA coming out on me, but they really didn't understand their numbers. So when the cash stopped, what really businesses need to do is understand, first of all, their fixed costs. They have to pay a rent. They got to pay utilities. They need to pay a mortgage. What are those costs? And maybe it's $1,000 a month. Maybe it's $10,000 a month. So if you're now opening at 50% capacity, can you cover your fixed costs just to allow yourself to survive? Because you can do all sorts of fun stuff, but if you can't survive, if you can't pay your rent, if you can't pay utility, and then on top of that, if you can't pay you, so that your personal expenses get paid, you really have to think twice. So if your revenues aren't going to cover your fixed costs, and then move on to variable costs. So if you're a restaurant, bringing back the chef, bringing back wait staff, buying food, You really need to rethink your model as to how you're bringing in business. And this goes back to whether it's takeout or something else, or, depending on your business, some other way of getting revenue. You need to understand your numbers. Even it's as simple as sitting down with your accountant and saying, hey, I am in the process of, or I have filed my tax return. Can you explain these more with me? And go through it. And that way I can say, well, I need to make X dollars a month just to survive. Can I? And if not, then talk to your staff, talk to your customers. How do you figure out a better way?
So is there, like, if a small business owner was trying to figure out their fixed cost and they came to you, is there a national average for their trade industry of what percentage they should be?
There is. But honestly, I prefer to look at it customer by customer because everyone's different. Everyone has different circumstances. The reason that you either have an office or a store or your warehouse or whatever is very different. And while there should be national averages, now it's more important. You have to write that check every month.
Yeah.
National averages are nice when you're looking at projections of where I want to go and what it might cost me if I suddenly want to do this type of business. That's great because then you could do forecast projections. Today, we got to deal with today. You got to deal with today. How am I paying my rent today? How am I paying my rent next month? And if for our poor clients who have not gotten the EIDL or PPP loans yet, and they're still waiting, my heart bleeds for them because they're calling us up and saying, I don't know how I'm going to make the May 1st rent or the June 1st rent. And I just got laid off of my full-time job because this was my side job, the business. So, we sit here as mentors, and Mike and I have this conversation all the time, like, oh my God, what can we do for these people in order to help them just get through these next couple of months? Because things will get better. We just don't know when.
Thank you. Mike, what would you say are the biggest mistakes small business owners make?
I would say right now, and this would be any business, any nonprofit, pretty much anybody. And I never would have guessed I'd be saying this, but if you have information you're relying on exclusively to run your business that's prior to February 15, 2020, the date at which SBA said that's the anchor point for this disaster, you're not running your business. You don't know. And we hear this when you listen to major global corporations, their 2020 strategic plans went out the window. Now, it doesn't mean you abandon it. It doesn't mean that it's no good. It means that if you're not dealing with fresh data, it's that old phrase, in God we trust, all of us bring data, because you have to have fresh, reliable information. You really have to know where every dollar of revenue is coming from, and you really have to know where every dollar of expense is going, or you're not running your business. It can't be delegated. I'm going to use Andy's term.
Yeah.
There's certain things you do yourself, and there's certain things you have to know yourself to say these are valid numbers for me to base decisions on as best I can, right? Every day is different. But you apply more information every day, and whether you have a dashboard or you have a leading indicators or you have a feedback mechanism to tell you, not distorted, not with rose-colored lenses or whatever, is that this is where we are right now, and I know where we're going. So I would say lead by vision, verify with data.
Wonderful tips. Andy and Karen and Mike, I want to thank you so much for sharing your really valuable insight to the small business community. And Andy, if somebody wants to get in touch with you, how can they do that?
Well, they can reach me at 803-669-1343, or my email address is andy@hiltonheadstone.com.
Awesome. And Karen and Mike, if somebody is looking for some mentorship, how can they get in touch with you?
Real easy. In fact, you have the banner running on the bottom. But you can reach a mentor by going on any browser, www.score.org. The first thing on the landing page is on the left-hand corner, find a mentor. Couple questions, you identify the main concern you have. By zip code, you press enter, it routes it right to us in our local chapter or any chapter in the country. And you also have the number running on the banner too. So if you want to call and leave a message with our small office in the Chamber of Commerce building here.
I would also add that if you go to the sclowcountry.score.org, we do workshops constantly, and we're constantly putting out workshops. You know, Mike and I are doing one next Thursday at 9 o'clock in the morning, and it's all going to be about EIDL and PPP and the pitfalls of taking the loan and talking a little bit about forgiveness. You know, we just did one about how to open your own business and risks. We're looking at another one after that. That'll be talking about, you know, how do you go from retail storefront to online. So just keep an eye on that page, and there'll be workshops that'll be addressing all sorts of issues that we're hearing from our clients, and we're outreaching and trying to help them.
So to the small business owner watching this, get in touch with SCORE, call Andy. You know, everybody is trying to help everybody. We are all in this together. Businesses are uniting. I'm going to encourage you all to stay strong, reach out for help. There's lots of free help available, whether it be another business owner or whether it be SCORE. So stay strong. Thank you for watching.
Thank you,
Thanks,
everybody.
Marjorie. Thank you,
Marjorie.
Thanks, Karen.